Hello there, it's Josiah Savar from Singing Songs Multimedia. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to this series on music theory for the worship pianist. Today I wanted to teach you one more voice leading tip that I have using half step and whole step motion. And then at the end I want to show you how we can use both of the tips from this week and last week to create some new and interesting chord progressions. Use these tools as kind of like compositional tools. So anyways, first things first, using whole step and half step motion to influence your voice leading. Why would we do this? Well, motion creates melody, and melody is what the listener will remember. So if you have these stagnant voices, there's some motion in there, but this voice that we hear the most, we always hear the top voice the clearest. It stays a little stagnant there, and then it skips down. There we have some half step motion. But anyways, while that progression is great, that's the progression we made last week, you can make it even more interesting by adding in some stepwise motion. We already have stepwise motion from chord to chord. It just worked out that way. And most likely, your progression that you're using will have stepwise motion. It's just up to you to bring that out. How do we bring it out? We put it in the top voice, because like I said, the top voice is what the listener is going to hear the clearest. It just cuts through. So let's look for that stepwise motion first. Oops. So for those chords, we have this F sharp to E, and we have this D to C sharp. So both are stepwise, but we're going to pick the half step because the half step motion is just a little bit more effective, I guess, in my opinion. You could go either way. The method that we're going to use is the same, so you can pick which steps you want to use. But we're going to go with the half step motion. So D to C sharp, we're going to put that in the top of the chord. So we're going to voice that first chord as F sharp, A, and D, and then it'll sound something like this. And the C sharp steps down nicely to the B. Then we can keep the B. So our melody is... Okay, so that's pretty singable, and it's a good melody. All right, so that wraps up the second tip that I have for voice leading is look for stepwise motion and emphasize it by putting in the top voice. And the situation that you're playing in will determine which of these methods you use. Either you might want it to be more forward and have a little bit more melody, so you would use the stepwise motion and kind of bring that forward. Or if you want to just be kind of underneath everything but still smooth, then you look for those common notes like we were talking about last week. All right, now let's use these methods to create a more interesting chord progression and add in some new chords. Okay, we're going to use them both at the same time. We're going to take the same progression. Now that's a good transition because we have that stepwise, that half step motion from the D to the C sharp. But we could substitute an F sharp minor 7. Because F sharp minor 7 has all the notes of an A major chord, just has an F sharp in the bass. So let's hear what that sounds like. Okay, that feels much different. So it depends on what you're going for, but we're going to go with that. So okay, now what we could do from the F sharp minor to the B minor. Again, this is all very subjective. This is just how you can think about adding in some new chords. So now, to get from the F sharp minor to the B minor, we could just go straight over there. There's some half step motion, which we could emphasize. Although that is just really repeating what we already had when we went down. We went from that D to that to that C sharp, and then we just repeat it. So that could work, but what we're going to do to make it a little more interesting is add in one more half step motion, and we're going to make the F sharp chord major and make this A sharp lead into that B. So let's play that all together, everything that we have so far. Okay, that extra half step adds just a little more tension, which helps it resolve a little more nicely. Again, this is all subjective. It depends on the sound that you're going for. All right, now to get from the B minor to the G, it already is a very smooth transition, right? But again, we have some of that stagnant voicing in there. So what I'm going to do here is actually use the other method. I'm going to use some shared notes between the chords and add in an extra chord that doesn't really belong to the key of D. And this isn't actually going to fix too much of the stagnant voicing problem, but it'll make it sound a little more interesting. We're going to add a flat 6 chord, so a B flat major chord in between the B minor and the G major, because all these chords need the note D. So they all share that one note. And let's just experiment with that. Let's see what it sounds like. So B minor. So it kind of emphasizes that D, that they all share it, and it just makes it a little more interesting. Again, we didn't really solve the stagnant voicing problem, which isn't really a problem anyways, but we added in an extra chord that made it sound a little more interesting and distracted from the stagnant voicing. So let's play that all together. So it's going to go like this. So we really just added in some extra chords to make it interesting. We added in some motion. We also added in just some cool flavors that can just make everything sound more interesting. Now, this is definitely not applicable to every situation. You definitely don't want to just go into this spontaneously with a band because nobody will know what you're doing. But if you're writing music, these are some methods to kind of explore out alternative sounds. Or if you're just playing like an offertory or some kind of instrumental by yourself, this could be a good option for you to kind of spice things up a little bit if things are getting a little stagnant, a little boring. So look for that stepwise motion and look for those shared chord tones, and you can come up with some really interesting chord progressions. Anyways, that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed that. Hope you found it interesting. Please subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Please share it with anybody who you think might find this interesting, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much.